Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Mhm.
Today we're heading to South India to explore the art and architecture of the Chola dynasty.
Mhm.
Roughly around the 9th to the 13th centuries.
Yeah.
We've got some great sources lined up for this one.
Yeah.
A few in-depth studies of South Indian art,
Right.
and a couple of books on Indian history in general.
It's going to be a fascinating dive. I think for me, the Cholas were one of those dynasties that just
Yeah.
really captured the imagination, not just because they were powerful rulers, but because they were such incredible patrons of art and architecture. And I think looking at their achievements really tells us so much about
Yeah,
their society, their beliefs, their cultural sophistication. It's really all there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump right in. When we say Chola art,
Yeah.
what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess for most people it's
Oh,
those
sure.
majestic temples.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't think of Chola art without those temples. And you know, they were central to Chola life. Like, they weren't just places of worship. They were vibrant hubs, social economic activity. And they were designed to inspire awe, and really showcase the dynasty's power and piety.
And they definitely succeeded in the awe-inspiring part. I was
Oh.
reading in one of the sources about these massive gateways,
Oh, yeah.
sprawling courtyards, and then you have these intricate carvings covering just about every surface imaginable.
You're freeway.
It's like they wanted to tell a story with every inch of those temples.
Exactly. And they did. They were creating this visual narrative, a way to connect people to their faith and to the Chola legacy. And, they really weren't afraid to think big.
Yeah.
Take the Brihadisvara temple at Thanjavur.
Okay.
It's just this masterpiece of Chola architecture
Yeah.
with its towering Vimana. That's the
Yeah.
main temple tower. And, it reaches over 200 feet high.
Wow. 200 feet.
Wow.
That's taller than most modern buildings.
Yep.
And it's made entirely of granite, right?
It is, yeah. They were moving and lifting these enormous granite blocks and
Yeah.
weighing tons without modern cranes or machinery. I mean,
It's incredible.
it really speaks volumes about their ingenuity and architectural skill.
Right. And it wasn't just about the size. I mean,
Oh,
every
no.
inch of that temple is covered in incredibly detailed carvings.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling.
It's incredible the amount of dedication and the skill that would have gone into that. So we've got these grand temples,
Mhm.
but the sources also highlight the Cholas' incredible bronze sculptures.
Oh, yeah.
And from what I've read, they were known for being amazingly lifelike and expressive.
They are incredible.
How did they achieve that level of detail?
Well, the key was the lost wax casting technique.
Okay.
And it was a meticulous process. It involved creating a wax model, encasing it in clay, melting the wax away to leave a hollow mold, and then pouring molten bronze into the mold.
That sounds so complex.
Yeah.
No wonder they were so skilled. It takes talent not just in the metalworking, but also in capturing human emotions and divine forms in such a realistic way.
Yeah.
It's almost as if those sculptures could come to life.
And in a way they did.
Really?
Because these sculptures weren't meant to be static objects. They were designed to be carried in processions during religious festivals.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine the dynamism that they brought to these rituals.
Yeah, so it's like they were almost moving works of art.
Exactly.
That would have been incredible to see.
Mm.
Okay, so we've got these grand temples, stunning bronze sculptures.
Yeah.
What other artistic surprises did the Cholas have up their sleeves?
Well, their creativity, it extended beyond temples and sculptures. They created a variety of impressive public monuments, like these intricately designed stepped wells.
Stepped wells.
Yeah, which were not just sources of water, but also social spaces.
Oh, wow.
This is for gathering.
I love that. It's like they understood that art wasn't just about religious expression. It was woven into the fabric of everyday life.
Yeah.
So these stepped wells, I'm picturing them now.
They were beautiful.
Both beautiful and functional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were there any other types of public monuments that they built?
Yeah, they also built mandapas. These were essentially pavilions, used for gatherings and ceremonies.
Okay.
And let's not forget the memorials.
Right.
Dedicated to important figures. I mean, the Cholas really had a knack for blending practicality with aesthetics.
It makes you wonder, did they have like some grand plan for all this art and architecture?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it more about individual kings just wanting to, leave their mark?
Well, there's definitely a sense of a larger vision at play. The sources mention that Chola kings, they saw themselves not just as rulers, but as patrons of the arts.
Right.
And they believed that commissioning these grand projects, it was a religious duty, a way to gain merit and ensure the prosperity of their realm.
So it wasn't just about ego or leaving a legacy. It was about something deeper. It was about connecting art and spirituality with the well-being of the entire kingdom.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
And it's worth noting, that the Chola Empire wasn't isolated.
Right.
I mean, they had extensive trade networks that stretched across the Indian Ocean, reaching Southeast Asia and even China.
So how did those interactions with other cultures influence their art?
That's a great question.
I'm imagining all sorts of cultural exchanges. Ideas flowing back and forth across the seas.
Oh, absolutely.
Did they borrow styles or techniques from other cultures?
They were incredibly adept at absorbing and adapting influences from their trading partners. You can see traces of Southeast Asian and even Chinese art in their sculptures and temple designs. But they didn't just copy, they blended those elements with their own unique style, creating something distinctly Chola.
So it's not just about borrowing. It's about innovation.
Yeah.
About taking inspiration and transforming it into something new. That's really cool. It makes me think about how connected the world was even back then.
It was.
Did they use their art for any strategic purposes, like diplomacy?
Absolutely. The Cholas, they were masters of soft power.
Okay.
They used their artistic prowess to build relationships and forge alliances. For instance, they gifted elaborate bronze sculptures to temples in Southeast Asia as a way to spread their cultural influence and strengthen ties.
That's so clever. It's like they were saying, hey, look at our amazing art.
Yes.
We're not just powerful, we're cultured too.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder if all that focus on art and culture, did it distract them from other aspects of governing?
Well, that's a common misconception.
Yeah.
The reality is that for Cholas, art and architecture were deeply intertwined with governance.
Interesting.
They saw these grand projects as a way to maintain order, project power, and demonstrate their legitimacy as rulers.
But it wasn't a case of art or governance. It was art as governance.
Exactly.
That makes so much sense. It's like they understood that art could be a powerful tool for shaping people's perceptions and solidifying their rule.
Exactly. And it's a reminder, I think, that the way a society expresses itself artistically can tell us a lot about its values, its priorities, and its understanding of power.
Yeah, it's like we're peeling back the layers of history and getting a glimpse into the minds of these ancient rulers.
Exactly.
It's amazing to think about the planning, the resources, the sheer human effort that went into creating all of this.
It is.
Did those involved ever get any recognition for their work?
Well, let's shift our focus to the artisans themselves. Remember all this incredible art and architecture? It wouldn't exist without the thousands of skilled individuals.
Right.
The metal workers, the stone carvers, the architects who poured their heart and soul into these creations. Yeah, I mean, you think about those artisans, their skill in artistry, really remarkable. Like, just imagine the level of precision required to carve those.
Oh, intricate details into stone or to create such lifelike expressions in bronze. Yeah. Using the lost wax technique. I mean, it wasn't just a job.
Right.
It was a calling.
Yeah, it's like they poured their heart and soul into these creations. And it's interesting because the sources even talk about how Chola bronze sculptures were known for being incredibly expressive.
Oh, yeah.
Almost as if they possessed a soul. Did these artisans have any kind of formal training? Or was it all passed down through generations?
It seems like it was a bit of both. You know, artistic knowledge was often passed down within families from one generation to the next. But there were also these guilds or workshops where master artisans trained apprentices, ensuring the continuity of these skills and techniques.
That's so cool. So it's this blend of tradition and formal education.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing these workshops, master artisans passing on their knowledge to these eager apprentices.
Right.
I bet there was such a strong sense of community and mentorship in those spaces. Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't just about technical skills.
Right.
These workshops were also like incubators of creativity where new ideas and styles could flourish.
Yeah. It makes you realize that Chola art wasn't static. It was constantly evolving, adapting, incorporating new influences.
Speaking of influences, we talked earlier about the Cholas' extensive trade networks.
Yes.
Did that have any impact on their art, or were they pretty much sticking to their own traditions?
You know what's really interesting is that the Cholas were incredibly open to outside influences.
Really?
They actually incorporated elements from Southeast Asian, and even Chinese art.
Wow.
Into their own styles.
Yeah.
Creating this really unique blend that reflected their cosmopolitan outlook.
It's like they were curating from all these different cultures.
Exactly. But it wasn't just about borrowing.
Right.
They took those influences and transformed them into something distinctly Chola.
So it's a process of cultural fusion, taking the best of different worlds.
And creating something new and exciting. That's really cool.
It is.
It makes me think about how art can act as a bridge between different cultures.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's bring it back to the artisans themselves.
Okay.
Do we know anything about their lives, their social standing, or how they were treated by society?
Well, specific details about individual artisans are pretty scarce.
Okay.
But we do know that they were highly respected for their skills. I mean, the fact that kings and wealthy patrons commissioned them to create these grand works of art, it really speaks volumes about their social standing.
That makes sense. I mean, if you're entrusted with creating something as important as a temple or a bronze sculpture for the king, you must be held in high regard. It's like they were the celebrities of their time.
In a way, they were. Yeah, they possessed skills that were both valuable and revered, and their creations. They played a central role in Chola society, shaping religious practices, social gatherings, even political life.
It's amazing to think about the impact these artisans had, not just on their own time, but on the centuries that followed. I mean, we're still talking about Chola art today.
Exactly. And it continues to inspire. The Chola legacy is alive and well in contemporary Indian art. I mean, modern artists are drawing inspiration from those ancient forms and techniques, reinterpreting them for a new generation.
So it's not just a relic of the past. It's a living tradition. That's incredibly powerful.
It is.
It makes you realize that the creativity and innovation of those Chola artisans still resonates today.
And it's a reminder, I think, that art has the power to transcend time and connect us to the past in such meaningful ways.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. We've explored the grandeur of Chola temples, the intricate beauty of their bronze sculptures, and the human stories behind these incredible creations.
Right.
It's been a journey through architecture, history, and culture.
It really has. And I think it's fitting to end our exploration with a thought-provoking question. The Cholas, they were masters of expressing their power, their beliefs, their cultural identity through art and architecture. But what about us? What does our art say about who we are, what we value, and what we aspire to be?
That's a great question to ponder. As we go about our day, let's all take a moment to appreciate the art and architecture around us, both ancient and modern. And let's think about how we, like the Cholas, can use creativity to leave our own mark on the world.
Well said. I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive.
This has been an incredible journey into the art and architecture of the Chola Empire. Thanks for joining us.